The rain in Lagos did not fall like the village rain that announces itself with thunder and old songs. This one came like a quiet thief, steady, stubborn, and cold, washing the streetlights into blurred halos and turning the hospital driveway into a shining river of headlights. Inside St. Bridget's Maternity Center, the air conditioner fought the humidity the way a tired man fights sleep, with effort but not with victory. The reception smelled of disinfectant and sweet perfume and fear. A television mounted high on the wall played a loud gospel channel, but nobody listened. Everyone's ears were tuned to one thing only: the sound that decides destinies. A baby's first cry. Zainab held her belly with both hands as another contraction gathered itself like a wave and broke through her body. Her face tightened, her eyes watered, but she didn't scream. She refused to give pain that satisfaction. Kola stood beside her, holding her handbag and a small nylon bag with baby clothes inside. Clothes he had washed 3 times, as if more soap could guarantee more blessings. His shirt was already damp with sweat, even though the room was cold. He looked like a man standing at the edge of a river, afraid to step in because he might drown, but also afraid to stay because the people behind him were pushing. "Z, breathe," he whispered. Zainab forced a breath out through her teeth. "I am breathing," she said, but her voice came out like a warning. Kola nodded quickly. Yes, you are doing well." The nurse behind the desk, Nurse Bisi, glanced at them and then back at her paperwork. Her eyes were tired, more tired than the night itself. She wore the expression of someone who had spent too many years watching life enter the world and still never getting used to how fragile it looked in the beginning. "Madam Zainab Adebayo," she called, checking the file. "Labor ward is ready." Kola leaned forward. "Nurse, I beg, please take care of my wife." Nurse Bisi's lips twitched in a half-smile that didn't reach her eyes. "We will, Oga. Just pray." Zainab wanted to laugh, but another contraction refused her that luxury. She was wheeled down the corridor, fluorescent lights sliding above her like a never-ending ceiling. Kola followed, stepping over a mop pocket, dodging a hurried orderly, passing a wall poster that said, "Safe motherhood is our priority." He read the sentence twice, like repeating it could make it truer. At the entrance of the labor ward, Kola was stopped by a different nurse with a strict face and a strict tone. "Daddy, you cannot enter." Kola's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "But," "No but. Sit outside." Kola turned to Zainab, suddenly helpless. She reached for his hand with 2 fingers and squeezed. "If you faint here, I will kill you," she said, trying to sound strong. He laughed too loudly, too quickly. "But I won't faint." But when the doors closed behind her, Kola's chest tightened with a fear he didn't know how to name. He sat on the bench outside the ward, knees bouncing, fingers tapping. He checked his phone. No network. He checked again as if the bars would appear out of pity. Somewhere down the hall, another woman screamed. Kola's heart jumped. He stood up, then sat down again. He looked at the floor. It was too clean, too bright, too quiet for a place where blood and life were negotiating behind closed doors. He remembered how this pregnancy started. It started with laughter, with Zainab chasing him around their tiny kitchen, waving a pregnancy test like a victory flag. It started with Kola lifting her off the ground and spinning her until both of them nearly fell. It started with promises. "Our child will not lack," Kola said. "I will raise a child that will love me," Zainab replied. And because love is always brave in the beginning, they believed themselves. But as the months passed, love began to share the room with other visitors, pressure, opinions, superstition, and the kind of advice that sounds like concern but carries poison inside. Kola's mother, Mama Kola, said it the way she said everything, like she was reading a law that nobody could challenge. "Pray that it is a boy," she insisted. "Your father's name must continue." Zainab smiled politely. "Mama, a child is a child." Mama Kola clicked her tongue. It is easy for you to say. Then there were Kola's friends, the ones who always found jokes for serious things. Guy, if the child doesn't resemble you, no vexo, one of them laughed, clinking bottles at a beer joint. DNA is cheap now. Kola had to force a laugh too, because men in public rarely admit what cuts them. But the words stayed. Words always stay. That night at St. Bridget, those words returned like mosquitoes in darkness, quiet, persistent, waiting for the smallest opening. The door to the labor ward opened suddenly. Kola jumped up so fast his knees almost betrayed him. Nurse Bisi walked out, her hands in gloves, her face shining with sweat. Oga Kola, she said, her voice cracking. Yes, he said, voice cracking. She looked at him for 2 seconds, then softened. Your wife is strong. She is trying, but the baby is stubborn. Kola swallowed. Is she okay? She's okay, but we might need to help her. Help her how? Nurse Bisi didn't answer directly. Just pray. And then she went back in. Kola sat again, but this time his hands shook. He opened WhatsApp and typed a message to Zainab's friend Aisha. We are in labor ward. Please pray. He didn't send it. He stared at the screen, then deleted it. Because what if prayer was not enough? In the labor ward, Zainab's world had shrunk into rhythm. Pain, breath, pain, breath, pain, breath. The nurses spoke in quick codes. A doctor appeared, checked her, frowned slightly. She's not progressing, the doctor said. Zainab wanted to tell him, it's not a business meeting. This is my body. Give it time. But the next contraction swallowed her words. Somewhere nearby, another baby cried, sharp, healthy, angry at the world. The sound was a tiny knife. Zainab wondered if that baby's mother was already smiling, if that baby's father was already calling family members to announce the name. She tried not to envy. The doctor turned to Naspisi, prep for assisted delivery, monitor closely. Zainab's heart raced. Assisted delivery. Words that sounded like help, but also sounded like danger. She reached for the nurse's hand. Please, I don't want anything to happen. Nurse Bisi squeezed her fingers. Nothing will happen. Focus. Your baby is coming. Zainab closed her eyes. In her mind, she saw the baby clothes folded at home, the tiny socks, the blanket, the little cap. She had chosen yellow because she didn't want anyone to pressure her with gender expectations. She wanted the baby to arrive and be loved first, before the world started demanding definitions. Outside, the rain continued. Inside, time split into seconds. Then finally, after a long struggle, after Zainab felt like she had emptied her whole spirit onto the bed, the moment arrived. A cry filled the room. Not loud, not perfect, but real. Zainab sobbed, a sound she didn't even recognize as hers. Baby boy, someone announced, and before she could even process the words, she saw a small wet body lifted briefly into the air, skin wrinkled, mouth open in protest. She reached out. Let me see, she begged. The nurse brought the baby close enough for Zainab to see the tiny nose, the tiny clenched face, the furious determination in that little face. Then the baby was carried away toward the warmer. Why are you taking him? Zainab's voice rose. To clean him, Nurse Bisi replied, already moving, already multitasking. Zainab lay back, exhausted, smiling through tears. At that exact same time, on the other side of the ward, behind a curtain, another woman was also giving birth. Her name was Amaka. Her husband was also pacing outside, also sweating, also praying to a God he didn't fully understand anymore. And when her baby cried, the nurse there also said, baby boy. 2 baby boys, same night, same hospital, same rain, same chorus of exhaustion. And in hospitals, small mistakes do not announce themselves. They hide inside speed, inside routine, inside fatigue, inside I'll do it now, inside I'm coming, inside bring that file, inside where is the tag, inside shift is ending, inside junior nurse mixed up 2 files on the desk and corrected it too quickly. And in that chaos, identity became a fragile thread. a thread that could snap. In the newborn corner, 2 crying babies lay in 2 warmers. 2 tiny wristbands waited on a tray, printed names, numbers, dates, and the most dangerous thing of all, similarity. Kola waited outside. He saw the labor ward door open again, and this time, Nurse Bisi stepped out with a small bundle. "Oga," she said, her voice softer now. "Congratulations." Kola's whole body released a breath he didn't know he was holding. He stood up, almost unsteady, eyes shining. "Is she okay?" "She's okay. Baby is okay." "Can I see?" Nurse Bisi brought the bundle forward. The baby's face was red and scrunched, the mouth open like it wanted to argue with the world about why it had been invited here. Kola stared, and something in him softened completely. He reached out, trembling, and touched the baby's cheek with one finger. The skin was warm, real, alive. "My son," Kola whispered, voice breaking. The baby yawned. Kola laughed, a full, foolish laugh, the laugh of a man who suddenly believes life is kind. "What is his name?" Nurse Bisi asked. Kola looked up. We decided Hassan, if it's a boy." Nurse Bisi nodded. "Hassan." She turned to the file, scribbled something, and began to walk away, because the ward behind her was still full of cries, still full of blood, still full of work. Kola stood holding the bundle, heart swelling, mind blank with joy. He did not notice the wristband. He did not check the number. He did not imagine that in a building built to protect life, a tiny error could plant a bomb inside his future. Because why would he? In his mind, hospitals were places of certainty. But the truth was this: hospitals are places of humans. And humans, when tired, can mix up destinies. Later, when Zainab was moved to recovery, she held the baby and kissed her forehead. She whispered prayers in her ear. She thanked God. She apologized for the pain of birth, as if the baby could understand. Kola sat beside her, looking at them like he was watching a miracle. Mama Kola called on video. Her face filled the screen. "Let me see my grandson." Zainab lifted the baby. Mama Kola's eyes narrowed, the way old women narrow their eyes when they are measuring bloodline with sight alone. "He has your head," she told Kola. Then she nodded, satisfied. "Thank God." Kola smiled. Zainab smiled too. And the rain outside kept falling, washing the city clean, hiding footprints, hiding mistakes. By morning, papers were signed, instructions were given, bills were paid, the baby was dressed in yellow, pictures were taken, smiles were shared. And Hassan Adebayo, the child they believed was theirs, went home. A week later, the other family also went home with their own baby. Nobody screamed, nobody noticed, because the truth about swapped babies is that it often does not reveal itself with drama at the beginning. It reveals itself slowly, years later, when love has already built a home around a child, when a DNA paper becomes a weapon, when a society points fingers at the woman first, when a family starts to die from suspicion. And that is when our real story begins. Before we continue, kindly like this video and subscribe to this channel. And if you are coming from TikTok or Facebook, let me know in the comment section. Hassan grew the way most babies grew. Quietly first, then suddenly, as if one morning he woke up and decided to take up more space in the world. In the first weeks, he was only a bundle of warmth and milk breath. He slept in Zainab's arms like he had always belonged there. He cried with a tiny, stubborn voice that made Kola laugh because it sounded like the baby was already arguing with life. Zainab would wake up at odd hours, sit up in the dim light, and feed him while the rest of the world slept. Sometimes she was too tired to even speak. Sometimes she was too full of love to stop touching his cheeks, counting his fingers again and again, like she was afraid God might take one away if she didn't keep checking.
Kola tried to be the kind of husband that stories praise. He carried Hassan around the room when Zainab's back ached. He boiled water. He washed baby bottles as if he was cleaning gold. He even learned the most difficult skill of all, learning to wake up at night without complaining too much. And in those early months, their love did something beautiful. It matured. Not the childish love that dances only when life is sweet, but the deeper love that stays, even when the eyes are heavy and the money is tight and the baby won't stop crying. Sometimes, when Hassan finally slept, Zainab would rest her head on Kola's chest, and Kola would stroke her hair and whisper, "We did it." And Zainab would whisper back, "We are doing it." Because parenthood is not a victory you win once. It is a battle you fight every day. But love has enemies. And their first enemy came dressed like family. Mama Kola arrived one Saturday morning with 2 nylon bags and one long list of opinions. She didn't knock the way guests knock. She knocked the way owners knock, like the house was also hers. "Good morning," she announced, stepping in before anyone answered. Zainab forced a smile, though her body was still recovering and her mind was still learning to sleep in small pieces. "Mama, welcome." Mama Kola walked straight to the baby's cot and leaned over Hassan as if inspecting a product. "This is my grandson?" she asked, as if there could be another baby in the house. "Yes, Mama," Kola replied, proud. Mama Kola made a sound that was half hum, half grunt. Then she lifted Hassan and held him up to the light. Zainab's smile tightened. "Mama, he just slept, please." Mama Kola waved her hand. "Let him wake. A baby that sleeps too much is not good." Hassan opened his eyes slowly, confused, then began to fuss. Zainab moved closer, hands already ready to collect her child. Mama Kola ignored Zainab's outstretched arms and turned the baby's face to the side. "Kola, bring your face." Kola, eager to please, leaned forward. Mama Kola compared their faces, nose, eyes, forehead, like she was doing a spiritual DNA test with her bare eyes. "He is fine," she finally said. The sentence sounded like approval, but it didn't feel like it. Zainab took Hassan gently and began to rock him back to calm. She didn't say anything, but her heart was already whispering to her, "This will not be simple." That afternoon, when Mama Kola was eating rice in the sitting room, she began to talk the way elders talk, slowly, confidently, as if the air itself owed them silence. "In our family," she said, "our children resemble us, strong blood." Kola laughed lightly. "Mama, baby is still small." Mama Kola chewed and nodded. "Yes, but even small, you can see signs." Zainab kept her face neutral. Mama Kola continued. "Zainab, when I gave birth to Kola, he looked like my father, straight. Everybody said it, everybody." Zainab politely nodded. "Okay, Mama." Mama Kola leaned forward. "This baby, sometimes I see another face." The room became colder. Kola looked up confused. "Another face? Mama, what are you saying?" Mama Kola shrugged. "I am just saying what my eyes see." Zainab's heart began to beat too fast. Kola tried to laugh it away. "Mama, you are overthinking." But Mama Kola's words did what poison always does. They entered quietly, then started to work. That night, after Mama Kola left, Zainab sat on the edge of the bed with Hassan sleeping in her arms. The room was quiet, but her mind was noisy. Kola lay beside her, scrolling his phone. Zainab finally spoke, softly. "Your mother doesn't like me." Kola sighed. "Z, she likes you. That's just how she is." "How she is?" Zainab's voice rose a little. "She came here to measure our baby's face, like she's suspecting me." Kola sat up, immediately defensive. "She didn't suspect you." Zainab laughed, a short laugh full of disbelief. "Kola, don't insult my intelligence." Kola rubbed his face. Please, Z, don't start. We just had a baby. I don't want stress. Zainab stared at him. So I should keep quiet when someone is planting doubts in your head? Kola's eyes hardened slightly. Nobody is planting anything. It's just talk. Zainab looked down at Hassan, sleeping peacefully, unaware that adults were already using his face as a weapon. Talk can destroy a home, she whispered. Kola didn't answer. And silence, when used wrongly, becomes agreement. Weeks became months. Hassan grew chubby. His eyes became bright. He learned to laugh, then learned to crawl, then learned to stand by holding the edge of the sofa. When he began to walk, he did it like a king who believed the world was built for him. Zainab adored him. She recorded videos, took pictures, made tiny captions like, "My heart in human form." Kola also loved Hassan, but something changed subtly inside him. He started noticing things, small things. In some pictures, Hassan's nose looked different from his. In some angles, the baby's lips seemed to curve in a way that reminded him of nobody in his family. And when people visited and said, he looks like his mother, Kola's heart would tighten. Not because it was an insult, but because it sounded like confirmation of the tiny doubt he was trying to ignore. Then came the comments. Comments are the bullets society throws for free. At a naming ceremony for his friend's baby, Kola carried Hassan proudly. The hall was loud with music, laughter, and the smell of jollof. A man from the neighborhood, one of those men who always talk too much because nobody has ever shut them down properly, looked at Hassan and whistled. "Kola," he said loudly, so others could hear, "this your pikin no resemble you." People laughed. Kola forced a laugh too. "He will resemble me when he grows." The man leaned closer. Just do DNA before you invest too much. Lagos is not village." The laughter grew louder. Zainab, standing nearby, felt like someone poured hot oil on her skin. She stepped forward. "Excuse me, sir. What do you mean by that?" The man raised his hands, acting innocent. Madam, I'm just joking. Don't vex." Zainab's eyes were sharp. "That kind of joke can destroy a marriage." The man shrugged, as already turning away, because men like that drop fire and walk away like it's not their business. On the way home, in the car, the air was thick. Zainab stared out of the window. Kola drove quietly. Finally, Zainab said, "Did you hear what that man said?" Kola's jaw tightened. "Yes." "And?" Kola swallowed. "And nothing. He's a foolish man." Zainab turned to him. "So why are you quiet?" Kola's hands gripped the steering wheel. "Because I don't want to talk about nonsense." Zainab's voice softened, but carried pain. "Kola, if you don't talk, then nonsense will grow into truth in your mind." Kola didn't answer. And silence, when used wrongly, becomes agreement. At home, Hassan ran towards Zainab shouting, "Mommy," and wrapped his arms around her legs. Zainab lifted him and kissed his cheek. "My baby." Hassan giggled. Zainab looked at Kola over Hassan's shoulder. "Look at him. Look at how he loves you too. How can people say such evil?" Kola forced a smile and patted Hassan's head. But later that night, when Zainab slept, Kola sat alone in the sitting room staring at old family photos on his phone. His father, his uncles, his cousins. He zoomed into their faces like a man searching for evidence in a crime scene. Then he opened Hassan's pictures and compared. He told himself he was only curious. But curiosity is often the first step to suspicion. A month later, Zainab noticed a new pattern. Kola started making jokes that weren't jokes. When Hassan spilled water, Kola would sigh. "This stubbornness, who did you inherit it from?" Zainab would laugh lightly. "From you." Kola would respond, "Are you sure?" At first, it sounded playful. But after the third time, Zainab stopped laughing. One evening, they were eating dinner, swallow and soup. Hassan was on his small chair, chewing slowly like an elder. Kola glanced at Hassan and said casually, "Zainab, you know people are talking." Zainab's spoon froze mid-air. "Talking about what?" Kola shrugged. "About resemblance." Zainab's eyes narrowed. So you brought it into our dining table? Kola sighed.
I'm not the one talking, I'm just saying. Zainab put down her spoon. Kola, say it clearly. What do you want to say? Kola hesitated, then spoke with the caution of a man walking on broken glass. I'm not accusing you, I'm just... Sometimes I wonder. Zainab stared at him stunned. You wonder what? Kola's voice dropped. If Hassan is mine. The words hit the room like a slap. Zainab's breath left her body. Even Hassan stopped chewing and looked up, sensing the shift in tone even if he couldn't understand the words. Zainab laughed, this time not from humor but from shock. So, you said it. Kola quickly added, I'm not saying it's true, I'm saying Lagos is... Zainab's eyes filled with tears instantly. Lagos is what? Lagos is the reason you can insult your wife? Kola reached out. Z, calm down. Zainab jerked her hand away. Don't touch me. Hassan began to fuss. Mommy. Zainab swallowed hard, forcing herself to lower her voice because her child was watching. Kola, she said slowly, do you know what you just did? Kola looked ashamed but stubborn. I just asked a question. Zainab nodded. A question that can kill love. Kola tried to defend himself. It's not like that. People do DNA these days. It's normal. Zainab's tears fell. Normal for who? For people who don't trust their wives? Kola's voice rose. Why are you making it look like I'm wicked? If you have nothing to hide, why are you angry? Zainab's mouth opened, then closed. Because that sentence, if you have nothing to hide, why are you angry, is the favorite weapon of suspicious people. It turns the accused into the guilty. Zainab stood up, carrying her son. I will not shout in front of my child, she said, voice trembling. But hear me well. If you go down this path, you will regret it. She walked into the room and shut the door gently. But inside her heart, something had already cracked. Later that night, Kola knocked softly. Z, he said low. I'm sorry. Zainab lay facing the wall. Hassan slept beside her, his small chest rising and falling peacefully. Kola sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't mean it like that. Zainab did not move. But you meant it enough to say it. Kola whispered, I love you. Zainab finally turned her face slightly. Her eyes were wet, shining in the darkness. If you love me, why is your love so easy for outsiders to poison? Kola swallowed. My friends keep talking. My mother keeps talking. Zainab's voice was bitter. So your mother's mouth is stronger than my years of faithfulness? Kola's shoulders dropped. No, but Z, sometimes I just want peace. If we do the test, everyone will shut up. Zainab stared at him. And if the test says something you don't like? Kola frowned. Why would it? Zainab's voice became quiet, almost prophetic. Kola, I carried this child. I suffered. I bled. I was faithful. The only thing I cannot carry is insult. Kola reached for her hand again, gently this time. Let's do it for peace. Zainab looked at Hassan, asleep between them. Peace. Sometimes peace is not peace. Sometimes peace is surrender to suspicion. But Zainab also understood another truth. If she refused, Kola would interpret it as guilt. The whispers would grow. Her mother would clap and say, I told you. His friends would mock him. So Zainab nodded slowly. Fine, she said. Do the DNA. Kola's face relaxed instantly, like a man who thought he had won. But Zainab's heart did not relax. It sank, because she knew something Kola did not know. A DNA test is not just paper. It is a spiritual earthquake. It can break a marriage even when it confirms the truth, because it teaches the couple that trust is optional. And that night, as Kola hugged her and whispered, thank you, Zainab stared at the ceiling and wondered, what if this test brings a truth that none of us is ready for? Outside, Lagos continued its normal noise, generators humming, distant horns, neighbors laughing. Inside, a family that once felt unbreakable was walking toward a storm it did not understand. And somewhere in St. Brigade's maternity center, in some forgotten cupboard, files slept quietly.
files that held the secret of one rainy night, a secret that had already started to leak into their lives through suspicion. The next morning, Kola made calls. He found a lab. He arranged the appointment, and as he spoke confidently on the phone, Zainab watched him with a strange sadness, not because she feared the result, but because she feared what the act itself had already done. Because when love is asked to prove itself with science, it begins to bleed from places science cannot measure.
The laboratory was painted white. Not the comforting kind of white that feels clean and calm, but the kind of white that feels like confession. White walls, white tiles, white ceiling. Even the chairs looked pale, as if color itself was not welcome inside the building. Zainab sat stiffly on one of the plastic chairs, Hassan on her lap, slowly chewing a biscuit and dropping crumbs on the floor. Kola paced. He walked from one end of the small waiting area to the other, checked his phone, rubbed his face, then paced again. He looked like a man preparing for battle, except he did not know who the enemy truly was. Zainab watched him silently. 3 months ago, this same man used to stare at Hassan with wonder, like the child was magic. Now, he stared at Hassan like the child was a question. That alone hurt more than any insult. The lab technician, a young woman with tired eyes and a neutral face, called out, "Mr. and Mrs. Adebayo." They both stood. Inside the small sample room, everything felt mechanical. Swab the cheek, place cotton bud in tube, seal, label, repeat. Zainab held Hassan firmly while the technician swabbed his mouth. Hassan cried loudly, not because it was painful, but because he did not like strangers invading his mouth. "I'm sorry, baby," Zainab whispered, kissing his cheek. Kola looked away. The technician swabbed Kola next. Then Zainab. 3 samples, 3 tubes, 3 identities placed inside small transparent plastic. The technician wrote something on each tube, then placed them in a tray. "Results will be ready in 5 working days," she said flatly. 5 days. It sounded small, but some small numbers carry big suffering. Outside the lab, Kola exhaled deeply. "It's done," he said, almost relieved. Zainab nodded, but inside her chest, a slow burning fire had started. On the drive home, neither of them spoke. Hassan fell asleep in his car seat, his head tilted sideways, mouth slightly open. Zainab stared at him. My son. She didn't need science to tell her that. She didn't need paper. She didn't need confirmation. She knew the feel of his weight in her womb. She knew the rhythm of his kicks. She knew the smell of his skin when he was born. But now, her marriage decided that those things were not enough. That night, Kola tried to be affectionate. He hugged Zainab from behind while she was washing plates. "Don't worry," he whispered. "Everything will be fine." Zainab didn't push him away, but she didn't lean into him either. Something invisible now stood between them, waiting. The 5 days felt longer than 5 years. Every small disagreement became heavy. Every silence became suspicious. Every look carried meaning. Mama Kola called every day. "So, when is the result coming?" Kola answered cheerfully. "Soon, Mama." Zainab noticed that Mama Kola never asked how she was feeling, only about the results. Kola's friends began sending messages. "Guy, update us. Hope you used a good lab. Prepare your mind for anything." Zainab accidentally saw one of the messages when Kola left his phone on the bed. She didn't say anything, but she cried quietly in the bathroom, covering her mouth with her towel so that Hassan would not hear. Aisha, her best friend, noticed her change in her. "You are losing weight," Aisha said one afternoon. Zainab forced a smile. "Stress." Aisha studied her face. "What kind of stress?" Zainab hesitated. Then everything poured out. The comments, the suspicion,
The DNA test. Aisha's mouth fell open. Are you serious? Zainab nodded. Aisha shook her head slowly. Men can be very foolish, Zainab said bitterly. It's not only him, it's society. Aisha took her hand. Listen to me. You did nothing wrong, nothing. Whatever that result says, remember that. Zainab looked at her. What do you mean by whatever the result says? Aisha hesitated, then said carefully, sometimes strange things happen in hospitals. Zainab frowned. Like what? Aisha shrugged. I don't know. Mix-ups, mistakes. I read something online once about babies being exchanged. Zainab felt a strange chill pass through her. Stop, she said quickly. Don't even say that. Aisha raised her hands. Okay, I'm just saying life is not always simple. Zainab changed the topic, but the words stayed, just like all dangerous words. On the 5th day, Kola did not go to work. He dressed early, wore a clean shirt, applied perfume, like a man going for an interview. Let's go, he said. Zainab picked up Hassan. Her hands were shaking. At the lab, they sat again on the same white chairs, the same walls, the same smell. This time, silence screamed. The lab technician appeared with a brown envelope. Mr. Adebayo, Kola stood up so fast he almost knocked over the chair. Yes, she handed him the envelope. Please open. Kola hesitated. His fingers trembled. Zainab held her breath. The world narrowed. Kola tore the envelope, pulled out the paper. His eyes scanned the lines once, twice. Then his face changed. Not anger, not shock, something emptier. Read it, Zainab said quietly. Kola swallowed. The probability of paternity is 0%. The words landed, but they did not make sense at first. 0%? Zainab blinked. What does that mean? She asked. Kola's mouth opened, closed, opened again. It means Hassan is not my biological son. The room began to spin. Zainab laughed softly. A strange laugh. No, that's not possible. Kola stared at the paper, like it might rearrange itself. The lab says 0%. Zainab snatched the paper. Her eyes moved across the lines. Scientific terms, tables, percentages, official stamps. 0%. Her hands dropped. This is wrong, she whispered. Kola looked up. The way he looked at her was different now. Not loving, not warm, searching, calculating. Zainab stepped back. No, she said, don't even start. Kola stood slowly. Z, I didn't want this, but the paper is here. Zainab's voice rose. So paper is stronger than me? Kola snapped. Then explain it. Zainab screamed. I did not cheat on you. People in the waiting area turned to look. The lab technician rushed over. Please, calm down. Zainab pointed at Kola. He is accusing me of sleeping with another man because of a piece of paper. Kola shouted back. Then whose child is this? Silence fell. Hassan began to cry, frightened by the raised voices. Zainab held him tightly. This is my child, she said fiercely, and he is your child. Kola shook his head slowly. The lab says otherwise. Zainab's legs felt weak. She sat down heavily. Her whole life seemed to tilt. She remembered every day of her pregnancy, every hospital visit, every ultrasound, every kick. How? She whispered. How can this happen? The lab technician cleared her voice. Sir, madam, sometimes we advise a second test for confirmation. Kola looked at her. Why? In rare cases, she said carefully, errors can occur, contamination or unusual situations. Zainab grabbed onto that sentence like a drowning person. Unusual situations like what? The technician hesitated. Like mother-child mismatch. Kola frowned. What does that mean? The technician lowered her voice. Sometimes the child tested may not be biologically related to either parent. The room went dead. Zainab stared at her. What are you saying? I'm saying, the technician said slowly, there is a possibility the child is not yours biologically either. Zainab stood up abruptly. That is impossible. I gave birth to him. The technician nodded. I understand, but we've had rare cases of hospital mix-ups. Kola's head began to spin. Are you saying the hospital could have exchanged babies? I'm saying it is a possibility, the technician repeated carefully. Zainab felt something inside her break completely. She clutched Hassan. My baby, she cried. My baby. Hassan cried louder, not understanding why the world suddenly hated him. Kola ran his hands through his hair. This was not the victory he imagined. This was not clarity. This was chaos. Outside the lab, they stood under the sun, but Zainab felt cold. Kola leaned against the wall. So, what now? He asked weakly. Zainab looked at him with red eyes. Now you know I didn't cheat on you. Kola swallowed. I'm sorry. Zainab laughed bitterly.
Sorry doesn't remove suspicion. Kola lowered his head. I didn't know it would be like this. Zainab hugged Hassan tightly. If this child is not mine biologically, I don't care. He is mine in my soul. Kola looked at Hassan, the child who had called him daddy, the child who ran to him after work, the child he taught to clap. A strange pain filled his chest. But we need the truth, Kola said. Zainab nodded slowly. Yes. Kola asked quietly, should we go back to St. Bridget Hospital? Zainab's eyes darkened. Yes, because somewhere in that hospital, on a rainy night, two cries had crossed paths, and one small mistake had grown into a storm big enough to destroy a family. St. Bridget's Maternity Center looked exactly the same as it did on the night that Hassan was born. Same cream-colored walls, same glass doors, same smell of antiseptic mixed with air freshener, same signboard that boldly claimed, safe motherhood is our priority. Zainab stood outside the building, holding Hassan tightly against her chest. Her heart beat fast, not with excitement, not with hope, but with anger, pure, burning anger. Kola said quietly, standing beside her, this is the place. Zainab nodded. This is where my life changed. They walked in. The receptionist sat behind the desk, scrolling on her phone. Good morning, Kola said. The receptionist barely looked up. Good morning. We want to see the administrator, Kola said. The receptionist sighed like someone who hated her job. Do you have appointments? No, Kola replied, but it's urgent. The receptionist finally looked up. About what? Zainab spoke before Kola could. About our child. The receptionist's eyes flicked to Hassan. She hesitated. Wait, she said, standing up. They were asked to sit. Minutes passed. The waiting area was full of pregnant women, some holding their bellies, some pacing slowly, some lying on benches with tired faces. Zainab looked at them and felt something twist inside her. One of these women could be holding my biological child, she thought. The idea made her dizzy. After almost 30 minutes, a tall man in a suit walked out. I am Dr. Eze, he said, hospital administrator. Kola stood up. Good morning, sir. Zainab stood too. They followed Dr. Eze into his office. Air conditioning humming, a large wooden desk, framed certificates on the wall. Dr. Eze gestured for them to sit. Please explain your issue, he said. Kola took a breath. Our son was born here 2 years ago. Dr. Eze nodded. Okay. We recently did a DNA test. It shows I am not the biological father. Dr. Eze raised his eyebrows slightly. That happens sometimes. Zainab leaned forward.
But the lab also suggested the child may not be biologically mine either. Dr. Eze's expression changed. Not shock, not sympathy, calculation. That is extremely unlikely, he said quickly. Zainab's voice trembled with anger. Unlikely is not impossible. Dr. Eze folded his hands. Madam, are you accusing this hospital of swapping babies? Kola hesitated. Zainab did not. Yes. Silence. Dr. Eze's jaw tightened. That is a very serious allegation. Zainab slapped the DNA result on the table. So is this paper. Dr. Eze picked it up, read, placed down. This DNA test was not done here. Does that change the result? Zainab snapped. Dr. Eze leaned back in his chair. Our hospital follows strict protocols. Babies are tagged immediately after birth. Mix-ups are practically impossible. Zainab laughed bitterly. Practically impossible is not impossible. Dr. Eze's voice hardened. Madam, are you suggesting our nurses are incompetent? Kola raised his hand slightly. Sir, we are not here to fight. We are looking for answers. Dr. Eze sighed. Look, marital problems are common. DNA issues are common. It is not fair to shift personal issues to a hospital. Zainab's eyes burned. You think I cheated? Dr. Eze avoided her eyes. I am saying hospitals are often blamed for family problems. Zainab stood up. You are calling me a liar. Dr. Eze looked uncomfortable. I am saying these things usually turn out to be family matters. Kola stood too. Sir, my wife did not cheat. Dr. Eze was surprised. You believe her? Kola swallowed. Yes. It was the first time he said it clearly. Zainab looked at him shocked. Dr. Eze cleared his throat. Even if we wanted to investigate, records from 2 years ago are archived. It will take time. We have time, Zainab said. We have a lifetime of pain. Dr. Eze stood. I will check what can be done, but do not expect miracles. Zainab leaned toward him. I already lived a miracle. I carried a baby in my womb. I gave birth. Now you are telling me he might not be mine. If that is not a miracle, I don't know what is. Dr. Eze did not respond. They were dismissed politely. Outside the office, Zainab felt weak. They don't want to help, she said. Kola nodded. They are hiding something. As they walked past the nurse's station, Zainab noticed a familiar face. A woman with tired eyes. A face that she had not seen since the night of her delivery. Nurse B, see? Zainab whispered. The nurse was filling a form. Zainab's heart began to pound. She walked closer slowly. Nurse B, see? The nurse looked up. At first, confusion. Then, recognition. Oh, she said softly. Oh, madam, you? Yes, Zainab replied. Kola stepped closer. This nurse was on duty the night our son was born. Nurse B shifted uncomfortably. Yes, I remember. Zainab studied her face. You carried my baby. Nurse B swallowed. I attend to many patients. Zainab's voice sharpened. You carried my baby. Nurse B looked around, lowered her voice. Madam, please, this is not the place. Zainab grabbed her arm. This is exactly the place. Nurse B gently pulled her arm away. Please, I don't want trouble. Kola leaned in. We are not here to cause trouble. We are looking for the truth. Nurse B's eyes filled with fear. I don't know what you are talking about. Zainab stepped closer. My DNA test says my husband is not the father. Another test may say I am not the mother. Nurse B's face drained of color. Zainab saw it. The fear, the recognition, the crack. You know something, Zainab said quietly. Nurse B shook her head. I don't. But her voice betrayed her. Kola spoke gently. Nurse, if there was a mistake, we need to correct it. A child's life is involved. Nurse B's lips trembled. Please, leave me alone. Zainab's voice broke. I carried that child for 9 months. If he's not mine, where is my baby? Nurse B's eyes became wet. I don't know, she whispered. Zainab grabbed her hand. You do know. Nurse B yoked around again, then leaned closer. That night, we were short-staffed. Zainab's breath caught. The generator went off briefly. Kola felt dizzy. There were 2 male babies born close together. Zainab's knees almost gave way. Nospisi continued, barely audible. There was confusion with tags. Kola whispered, "So you mixed them up?" Nospisi shook violently. "I don't remember clearly." Zainab screamed, "You remember!" Other nurses began to look. Nospisi's eyes filled with tears. "I may have placed the wrong tag on one baby." The world stopped. Zainab collapsed onto a chair. "My God!" Kola held his head. "So our baby was swapped." Nospisi cried, "I am sorry." Zainab felt rage like fire in her blood. "Sorry will not bring my baby back." Kola pulled Zainab gently. "Let's go." Zainab stared at Nospisi. "We will come back and we will expose everything." Nospisi sobbed harder. As they walked out of St. Bridget's Hospital, Zainab felt something new. Not confusion, not fear, purpose. Somewhere out there, her biological child was alive, being raised by another family, calling another mother, mother. And she was going to find that child, no matter what it took.
Zainab did not sleep that night. Not even for 1 minute. Hassan slept beside her, curled into a small ball, breathing softly, like nothing in the world was wrong. Zainab watched him. She touched his hair. She kissed his forehead. Tears rolled silently into the pillow. "If you are not mine," the thought stabbed her chest. Then another thought followed immediately. "Even if you are not mine biologically, you are mine in my heart." But somewhere, another child existed, a child who shared her blood, her eyes, her womb, a child she had never held, never kissed, never named. That pain felt heavier than the fear of losing Hassan, because she already loved Hassan, but she was also already loving a child she had never met. That is the cruelty of motherhood. Love does not wait for permission. At 5 a.m., Zainab got up and went to the sitting room. Kola was already there, sitting, staring into nothing. They looked at each other. No greeting, no anger, just 2 broken people sharing the same disaster. "We can't pretend anymore," Zainab said. Kola nodded slowly. "We need a lawyer." Zainab exhaled. "I don't want money." Kola said, "I don't care about compensation." Zainab's voice shook. "I want my child." Kola nodded again. "And I want the truth on paper." Later that morning, Aisha took them to meet Barrister Neka. Barrister Neka was not tall, she was not loud, but she had eyes that looked like they could slice lies into pieces. She listened quietly as Zainab told the whole story. No interruption, no judgment. When Zainab finished, the room was silent. Barrister Neka leaned back. "This is medical negligence," she said. Kola swallowed. "Can we force the hospital to cooperate?" "Yes." Zainab's heart jumped. But Barrister Neka continued, "It will be ugly." "I don't care," Zainab said. Barrister Neka nodded. "We will request hospital delivery records for that night." "What if they destroy them?" Kola asked. "They probably already tried," Barrister Neka said calmly. "But hospitals leave trails." Zainab leaned forward. "Can we find the other family?" Barrister Neka nodded. "If the nurse tells the truth." Zainab's eyes darkened. She already started telling it. Barrister Neka picked up her pen. "Good, because once she gives a formal statement, the hospital will panic." Kola felt a strange mixture of fear and hope. Hope that they might find their child, fear of what finding the child would mean. "Barrister," Kola said quietly, "what happens to Hassan?" Barrister Neka looked at Hassan, who was sitting on the floor playing with a plastic cup. "That depends on your heart," she said. Zainab's voice was firm. "He stays with me." Barrister Neka nodded. "Good answer." 2 days later, they returned to St. Bridget's Hospital. This time, they did not come alone. Barrister Neka came with them, with letters, with confidence, with the law. Dr. Eze was suddenly much more polite. "We are willing to cooperate," he said. Barrister Neka smiled slightly. "You will do more than cooperate. You will open your records." Dr. Eze cleared his throat. "We will need time. You have 48 hours. Silence. Dr. Eze nodded. They requested to speak to Nurse Bisi. At first, Dr. Eze said she was off duty. Barrister Neka placed the letter on the table. "Produce her, or we involve the medical council and the police." 30 minutes later, Nurse Bisi walked in. She looked thinner. Her eyes were swollen. She did not sit. "I want to talk," she said quietly. Zainab's heart pounded. Nurse Bisi clasped her hands. That night, 2 male babies were born within 15 minutes of each other. Kola held his breath.
One was delivered in bed 3, one in bed 5. Zainab whispered, I was in bed 3. Nosbisi nodded, yes. The other mother's name was Amaka Okore. Zainab felt dizzy. Nosbisi continued, I placed wristbands on both babies, but there was interruption. The generator went off. I went to assist another emergency. Barrister Neka wrote quickly. When I returned, the babies had been moved to warmers. Kola whispered, and you didn't know which was which. Nosbisi cried, I guessed. Zainab she screamed, you guessed with human beings? Nosbisi fell to her knees. I am sorry. Barrister Neka's voice was cold. You committed a crime. Nosbisi sobbed harder. I was afraid. Zainab felt like tearing her apart, but Barrister Neka raised her hand. We will handle this legally. Nosbisi sniffed. I know where Amaka Okore lives. I saw her address in the file. Zainab's heart nearly exploded. You know where my child is? Nosbisi nodded slowly. Barrister Neka stood. We will need that address. They drove in silence. No music, no small talk, just pounding hearts. The address led them to a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Ageje. The building looked normal. Laundry hanging outside, children playing in the compound. One of those children could be Zainab's. Zainab's legs felt weak. What if they hate us? She whispered. Kola held her hand. What if they slam the door? Barrister Neka said calmly, they will still hear the truth. They climbed the stairs. Barrister Neka knocked. Footsteps. The door opened. A woman stood there, medium height, dark skin, tired eyes, holding a small boy on her hip. Zainab's breath caught. She stared. The child's eyes, they looked like hers. Her knees nearly buckled. Good afternoon, Barrister Neka said gently. Is your name Amaka Okore? The woman nodded slowly. Yes. My name is Barrister Neka. We need to speak to you about your child. Amaka's face tightened. What about him? Barrister Neka glanced at Zainab and Kola. There is a possibility that your child was mistakenly exchanged at birth. The world stopped. Amaka laughed nervously. That's not funny. Zainab stepped forward, tears in her eyes. I think your child is mine. Amaka hugged her son tightly. You are mad. Kola spoke gently. We did DNA. I'm not the biological father of our child. Amaka shook her head. My husband is at work. I can't talk about this. Barrister Neka handed her a letter. Please read this. Amaka looked at the paper. Her hands trembled. Zainab looked at the boy. He stared back. He smiled.
Zainab felt her heart stretch painfully. Amaka whispered, My son looks like my husband. Zainab whispered back, My son looks like me. Tears filled both women's eyes. Amaka opened the door wider. Come in. Inside the small sitting room, silence swallowed them. 2 mothers, 2 children, 1 truth waiting to explode. Zainab sat opposite Amaka. They stared at each other. Where did you deliver? Zainab asked. St. Brigid, Amaka replied. Zainab nodded. Same night. Amaka's face drained of color. No. Barrister Neka spoke softly. We need to do DNA tests for both children, both parents. Amaka hugged her son tightly. What if it's true? Zainab's voice shook. Then both of us have been living someone else's life. Silence. Then Amaka whispered, Okay. Zainab felt a strange mixture of relief and terror, because agreeing to test meant agreeing to face a truth that could destroy 2 families. As they stood up to leave, Zainab looked at the little boy again. He waved at her. Mommy? Amaka smiled. He calls everybody mommy. Zainab's heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, because one day soon, one of these 2 boys would stop calling her mommy, and she did not know how a human heart survives that.
The DNA center was different from the first one. Smaller, quieter, less white. But the fear inside Zainab was louder than anything she had ever heard. 2 mothers, 2 fathers, 2 children, 1 truth waiting. Zainab sat with her son on her lap. Across from her sat Amaka with her son Emeka. The boys were almost the same height, almost the same weight, almost the same age. They looked like twins that had been separated at birth. Zainab could not stop staring at Emeka.
His eyes, his nose, his eyebrows, they reminded her of her own childhood photos. Amaka was staring at Hassan too. She noticed how Hassan's ears curved, how his dimple appeared when he smiled. They were both doing silent calculations, both terrified of being correct. The technician called them in one by one. Cheek swabs, tubes, labels, silence. No argument, no shouting. Pain had already exhausted everyone. When it was done, the technician said results will be ready tomorrow. Tomorrow felt cruel, but also merciful, because waiting longer might have killed them. That night, Zainab could not sleep. Hassan slept beside her. She pulled him close. She inhaled his scent. She memorized the feel of his body, not because she planned to give him up, but because her heart feared the world might try to take him. Kola lay beside her. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Zainab did not answer, not because she hated him, but because words were no longer enough. Across town, Amaka also lay awake. Her husband Chinedu had returned from work and listened to everything. At first, he shouted. Then he denied. Then he went quiet. Now he lay beside Amaka, staring at the ceiling. "That boy in the other house," Chinedu said slowly. "He looks like my sister." Amaka swallowed. "And Hassan looks like my mother." Chinedu turned toward her. "So it might be true." Amaka began to cry. "I don't want to lose my child." Chinedu whispered. "I don't want to lose mine either." Two families, same prayer, opposite meanings. The next day arrived too quickly. Back at the DNA center, nobody spoke. The technician walked out with two envelopes. "Please come in." They entered a small office. 4 adults sat. 2 children played with a plastic bottle on the floor. The technician cleared her throat. "We ran maternity and paternity tests for both children." Zainab gripped her wrapper. Amaka held Emeka tightly. Kola felt his heart pounding in his ears. Chinedu clenched his fists. The technician opened the first envelope. "Child Hassan Adebayo." Everyone held their breath. "Maternity test indicates 0% probability with Zainab Adebayo." Zainab felt like her soul left her body. She did not scream. She did not faint. She simply stared. The technician continued. "Paternity test indicates 100% probability with Chinedu Okore." Amaka gasped. Chinedu stood up suddenly. "What?" Zainab's ears rang. "Hassan, not hers, biologically." The technician opened the second envelope. "Child Emeka Okore." Zainab barely breathed. "Maternity test indicates 100% probability with Zainab Adebayo." Zainab let out a broken sound. "Paternity test indicates 100% probability with Kola Adebayo." Kola covered his mouth. "Emeka, her child, her blood, her womb." The room exploded. Amaka screamed. Zainab cried. Chinedu shouted. Kola collapsed into a chair. 2 years. 2 years of loving the wrong child biologically. 2 years of raising another woman's baby. 2 years of missed first smiles, missed first steps, missed everything. Zainab dropped to her knees. "My baby," she sobbed, staring at Emeka. Then she grabbed Hassan. "My baby," she sobbed again. She did not know which word meant what anymore. Amaka cried hysterically. "You are saying my son is not mine?" The technician said softly. "Biologically, no." Amaka shook her head violently. "No, no, no, no." Chinedu paced like a madman. "This hospital ruined our lives." Kola stood up and walked to Zainab. He knelt beside her. "I'm sorry," he said again. This time, Zainab looked at him, not with anger, not with bitterness, with exhaustion. "I told you I didn't cheat." Kola nodded. "I know, I was wrong." Zainab looked at Hassan, then at Emeka. Tears streamed down her face. "I loved both of them," Amaka cried. "So do I." Silence slowly settled. The technician spoke gently. "You will need to decide what happens next." "Decide?"
How do you decide which child to keep? How do you decide which heart to break? Barrister Neka, who had come with them, spoke. Legally, the biological parents have rights. Zainab's heart sank. Chinedu looked at Emeka. That's my blood. Zainab snapped. He is my blood too. Amaka clutched Hassan. And this one is my blood. Kola raised his hands. Stop, please, stop. Everyone froze. Kola continued. These children did nothing wrong. Zainab whispered. They are innocent. Barrister Neka nodded. True, which is why forced exchange can be traumatic. Amaka looked at Zainab. Are you going to take Emeka from me? Zainab shook her head slowly. I don't know. Amaka cried harder. I can't give him up. Zainab hugged her son tightly. I can't give him up either. Chinedu bitterly said, So what happens? Barrister Neka said carefully, This is unusual, but it will be the least damaging. Zainab felt torn apart. She wanted Emeka, but she could not imagine life without her son. Amaka wanted her son, but Emeka was the only child she had ever known. Kola looked at Zainab. Whatever you decide, I will support you. Zainab looked at him. Will you? Yes. She nodded slowly. Zainab stood up. She walked to Amaka. Both women stood face to face. Tears everywhere. Zainab spoke. Let us not turn this into war. Amaka sniffed. What are you saying? Zainab said slowly. We did not choose this. The hospital did this. Amaka nodded weakly. Our children should not pay for adult mistakes. Zainab looked at both boys. They are bonded with us. Amaka whispered. They call us mommy. Zainab nodded. Maybe we raise them together. Silence. Chinedu frowned. Together how? Zainab took a deep breath. Both families stay in each other's lives. Amaka was shocked. You mean co-parenting? Zainab nodded. Both boys know both mothers, both fathers. Kola's eyes widened. You are suggesting we don't exchange them? Zainab shook her head. Not completely. Amaka stared at Hassan, then at Emeka. Tears rolled down her face. I don't want to lose any child. Zainab whispered. Me too. Chinedu collectedly looked. Barrister Neka said quietly, This is unusual, but it may be the least damaging. Silence. Finally, Amaka nodded slowly. Okay. Zainab broke down crying. They hugged. Two mothers, strangers, united by stolen children. Kola watched with his eyes wet. Chinedu wiped his face. Nothing was fixed. Nothing was simple. But something had shifted. They were no longer enemies. They were victims of the same mistake, and they were choosing love over bloodlines. But outside that room, society was waiting. Family members, in-laws, neighbors, people who would not understand, people who would judge, and the hardest part was still coming, telling the children.
News does not always travel with noise. Sometimes it travels with whispers. And whispers are more dangerous because they grow teeth. At first, only a few people knew. Zainab, Kola, Amaka, Chinedu, Aisha. But secrets like theirs do not stay quiet for long. A neighbor saw Amaka visiting Zainab. Someone else saw Kola carrying Emeka. Another person noticed Hassan spending weekends in another house. Questions began to rise. Why are they always together? Is the woman marrying a second husband? Are the children cousins? What kind of arrangement is that? And because human beings hate complicated truth, they created simple lies. Zainab became the main target. She must have cheated. That's why they are doing all this. No woman will accept such arrangement unless she has guilt. Every whisper stabbed. But Zainab did not respond. She had cried enough. She had screamed enough. Now she was tired. She focused on the children. The boys adjusted faster than anyone expected. Children understand love before they understand blood. They noticed that they now had 2 houses, 2 mothers, 2 fathers, more toys, more hugs, more food. Hassan loved sleeping on Amaka's lap. Emeka loved clinging to Zainab's wrapper. Sometimes they fought, sometimes they shared biscuits, sometimes they slept holding hands.
Watching them together made Zainab cry in private, not because she was sad, but because she saw innocence surviving adult disaster. Kola also changed. The man who once demanded DNA now became fiercely protective. When his friends tried to joke again, he shut them down. "Don't joke about DNA around me." One friend laughed. "Why? Your wife finally agreed to test, Abi?" Kola stood up. "My wife did not cheat." The laughter died. "What?" Kola said it louder. "My wife did not cheat. The hospital swapped babies." Silence. One friend scoffed. "That one sounds like movie." Kola's eyes darkened. "Movie or not, it's my life." He walked away. Mama Kola was harder. When she was told the truth, she refused to believe it. "Hospital swap care," she laughed. "Impossible." Zainab sat quietly. Kola spoke. "Mama, DNA confirmed it." Mama Kola waved her hand. "Which DNA? Those foreign nonsense." Zainab stood up. "Madam, I did not cheat on your son." Mama Kola looked at her. "Then, whose child did you bring?" Zainab swallowed her tears. "I carried a baby. The hospital gave me the wrong one." Mama Kola shook her head. "Story." Kola slammed his hand on the table. "Enough." Mama Kola froze. Kola pointed at her. "Your mouth planted doubt in my head. Your mouth almost destroyed my home." Mama Kola gasped. "I am your mother." "And she is my wife," Kola replied. "If you cannot respect her, you will not step into this house." Silence. Mama Kola stood slowly. "So, you choose woman over your mother?" Kola answered calmly. "I choose truth over wickedness." Mama Kola left. Zainab cried, but Kola held her. For the first time in a long time, she felt defended. Barrister Neka filed a lawsuit. Medical negligence, emotional trauma, child endangerment. The hospital tried to deny everything. Then Nurse Bisi gave a sworn statement. The media picked it up. Headlines appeared. Lagos Hospital accused of baby swap. 2 families discovered children were exchanged at birth. Public opinion exploded. Some people sympathized. Others mocked. This one too is cover-up for cheating. But something important happened. Other families began to speak up. One woman said her child looked nothing like her husband. Another man said DNA showed 0%, but the mother swore she was faithful. People started asking questions. Not every story ended in divorce. Some ended in investigation. Some ended in hospital audits. St. Bridget Maternity Center was shut down temporarily. Records were seized. Nurse Bisi lost her license. Dr. Eze resigned. The case dragged for months. Eventually, the court ruled the hospital was guilty. Compensation was awarded to both families, but money felt small. No amount of money could replace 2 lost years. No amount of money could restore first words, first steps, first memories. Zainab stood in court holding Emeka in one hand and Hassan in the other. She looked at them. "My sons," she said. She did not correct herself, because in her heart, both were hers. The judge looked at her and asked, "Do you intend to formally exchange custody?" Zainab shook her head. "No." Amaka stood. "Neither do we." The judge paused. "So what arrangement do you propose?" Zainab took a breath. "We propose shared custody. Both children remain connected to both families." The courtroom murmured. The judge studied them. "You understand this is unconventional?" Zainab nodded. "So is our pain." The judge approved the arrangement. Outside the courtroom, reporters pushed microphones forward. "Madam, do you regret doing DNA?" Zainab thought carefully. "Yes and no." "What do you mean?" "I regret that DNA was used as a weapon against me, but I am grateful it exposed a bigger truth." "What truth?" Zainab looked straight into the camera. "That not every failed DNA test is caused by cheating." Silence. The reporter swallowed. Zainab continued. "Sometimes the system fails. Sometimes hospitals fail. Sometimes women are innocent." The clip went viral. Women shared it. Men argued about it. Hospitals felt pressure. Government promised stricter newborn identification systems. Zainab became something she never planned to be, an advocate. She began speaking at women's meetings, church programs, community gatherings. She told her story, not for pity, but for awareness. "Before you accuse your wife," she would say, "ask questions, investigate, don't destroy your home with assumptions." At home, life slowly rebuilt itself, not perfect, but honest. Kola became a better husband, not because he was afraid of losing Zainab, but because he understood the cost of mistrust. Amaka and Zainab became close, not best friends, but bonded. They attended school events together. They shared birthdays. They argued sometimes. They cried sometimes, but they stayed. One evening, Zainab watched Hassan and Emeka playing football in the compound. Hassan fell. Emeka helped him up. They dusted themselves, then continued playing. Zainab smiled. Tears filled her eyes. Aisha stood beside her. "You are strong," she said. Zainab shook her head. "No, I was forced to be strong." Aisha smiled. "But you chose love." Zainab nodded. Years later, when the boys were old enough to understand, Zainab sat them down. She told them everything. Not with fear, not with shame, with truth. Hassan cried. Emeka cried. They hugged her. "You are our mommy," Hassan said. "You didn't leave us," Emeka added. Zainab held them tightly. That is all that matters. And so, the story did not end with divorce. It did not end with hatred. It did not end with death. It ended with a lesson, a painful one, a necessary one. Not every failed DNA test is caused by cheating. Sometimes it is caused by a mistake. Sometimes it is caused by a tired nurse. Sometimes it is caused by a broken system. But blaming women is easier than fixing systems until stories like this are told and remembered.